We'll go one by one. Like one question always asked whenever we are talking about private sector is MBA necessary for that kind of job. So the point is, first of all, you need to understand what exactly the private sector is. Like many a times we don't understand, in fact, the private sector and what kind of companies and things are there, and we are looking private sector as one option, or you can say one thing, but it's not one. There are various subsets, and like in simple, really, you are in private domain. So that's a very vague, you can say, things. But if you are not doing any government job, so what exactly you are doing? Either you are doing your own business, or you are associated with some startup, or you are working with some company. That company may be MNC, maybe national company, or maybe a very small regional company. So you may be part of those companies. And when we are saying companies, so again, companies are falling in different like domain. You can see, I'm giving you one example where you can correlate very easily. In your university or college, there must be Kisan Mela, farmer fair. So when you visit that Kisan Mela, you will find like that your stall where pharma companies are coming. So what they are selling medicine, they are selling feed supplements, they are selling vaccines. There may be some specialized vehicles who are selling vaccines and diagnostics. There may be some companies who are exclusively in nutrition business. So they are selling animal feed or feed supplement for the different kind of animals, for dairy, poultry, sheep and goat, and for even for aqua. So just imagine, is all three are same or different? Because like selling medicine, feed selling, that's a different part. And we always think private sector means selling. Arey, wo jhola leke, you'll go door to door and you will say. That's not a case. Private sector includes different strata. You can have sales, you can have exclusive marketing domain, you can have R&D, research and development. And that's the biggest mistake our PG and PhD scholars they are doing. They are looking at only one dimension. They always make their assumptions and experience regarding sales. Nobody will employ a PhD candidate to sell a product like us normal representatives are doing. Definitely, PhD person will come into the private sector. They can add different value. What value they can add? They can come and join research and development. There are so many research happening in private sector. Who will do? Definitely, there are researchers they are doing. So our PhD students, they can also come and join the R&D sector, private corporate R&D, where we are seriously looking in India. So now I'm just giving these verticals. These are the inputs, like medicine you are giving to the animal, vaccines you are giving to the animals, feed supplements you are giving to the animals. But what about output? What animals are giving, like livestock products, like milk are coming, meat is there, egg is there. So for example, like poultry, as a you can say poultry management in case of broiler. So how these outputs are being managed? So like surprisingly, food tech candidates, they are only limited to the milk collection centers. And so let's involve in some corporate, So let's involve in some cooperatives, or we can just involve in that. And the companies also know, like, okay, this doctor has come because of some job scarcity, so he will be here for only 6 months or 7 months. So why that company who are there in milk or meat or egg domain, they will invest on that thing. They will say, okay, let's have a normal person, and normal means the normal graduate, and they will do that job. So that's not a fault of like, or a blame game, something like that. They are not giving money or you are not delivering. It's historically we have, so that there is a serious gap, especially in output sector, where we are having milk processing, meat processing, and especially in meat processing, that's the most unfortunate part in some of the states, where they are only focusing on the slaughterhouse just for the sake of should I, like, I don't think should I name it or not, but it's highly corrupted environment, and you can compromise on your professional ethics as well. So there are good veterinarians also who are working very well in meat industry, but there are majority of the veterinarians Even the slaughterhouse owners, they are also doing the malpractices, and unfortunately, vets are also involved in those domains. So it's not a kind of blame game, but the situation is not very healthy on that front. So my intention is, we only look private sector at one angle only. We are only thinking, okay, because we have seen MR or the companies are giving presentation in our colleges, and they are mostly from the pharma side. So we think private means pharma, and pharma means selling the medicine. It's not the case. There are different strata: sales, marketing, processing, even research and development. So you can come into this domain and do all sort of activities as per your qualification and understanding. Now the question was, is MBA necessary for private sector? So again, now you can think, in case of R&D, definitely you don't want MBA to be a good R&D person in private sector. For the processing, do you need it or not? That's again a question. Only for the sales and marketing, you may need some uh, technical, you can say, insights, how to market the product, how to do that product management and other thing. So for that, yes, MBA will be an advantage, but again, it's not mandatory. I have seen many vets who are doing really very good job without MBA degree. But yes, again, at the same time, I have seen many MBAs, they are doing normal job. So again, MBA is just a piece of paper. Whether you are having those skills or not, to analyze the market, to interact with customer, to manage the product, to have a holistic planning. So for that, definitely those skills are like required more than the piece of paper or the certificate. And definitely if you are getting into the premier veterinary this management colleges like IIMs, XLRI or something, like all the big names, you can say, definitely you will get some good edge. But again, one thing I will tell you, MBA is a kind of course which equalize you with other, you can say, professional courses. Say for example, one person who has done BSc or BA or become something like that, he has done MBA and you are BBSc and AH, and then you have done MBA. So don't think after MBA you will be recognized as a very dog. Being veterinarian and MBA, that will not give an edge for any common job. Or say for example, if you are going in FMCG sector after MBA, because again after MBA you will not look into only veterinary domain. You can have a different dimension. You can go in finance, you can go in FMCG sector, you can go anywhere, because MBA gives you that sector. You can go anywhere because MBA gives you that opportunity to look around. So if that advantage is coming, so you have to be very clear. There is no advantage for being your veterinary in those FMCG sectors, because that's not a like why Procter and Gamble will be interested to be have one veterinarian with MBA degree. They will have one person who is smart enough MBA. So MBA is equalizer kind of thing. So don't have that kind of perception like MBA, with MBA you will go and you will rock the world. It's not a case. But definitely MBA is it provide different aspect. But yes, if you are interested into the veterinary domain, say for example, if you are interested in veterinary pharma, if you are interested in veterinary nutrition, animal nutrition domain, or veterinary biologicals, so definitely then your MBA will help you, because you are having technical background, you are having technical understanding, as well as you are having that managemental understanding. So that techno commercial angle will definitely help you. But again, for that, do you need to spend your 2 years time in any college, say for example B grade or C grade college, just for the sake of taking MBA degree? Or you can do your job and you can do MBA with distance education. Then again, it's that there is no difference in that thing. If you are not from a very premier management college, then all the MBAs, it's okay. It's only your skills and your capability which differentiate you from others. not any paper or something. In UG program, we usually have that craze, or even in PG, we found like collecting the certificate. Okay, I've done this training, that training, falana, dimkana. They are having more than 20 certification, but and at the and if you are not delivering anything, there is no use of having 50 certification in dairy management, and you don't know how to manage one small dairy farm. So my only intention is, don't look on those pieces of certificates. So this is all about our first question: is MBA necessary for private sector job? So I with this discussion, I have discussed few more questions. So we'll save time. Like as you and one very interesting question, I recently one person asked me, please tell me about annual package in private sector. This is very interesting point. You need to understand, all the UG students, at least you need to understand. Like we always think private sector and connect with the package, and we miss the opportunity which private sector gives. And while saying this thing, I'm not saying this kind of thing is not happening in government sector or in anywhere else. We have so many issues in our mindset, especially about package. We think we have done some extraordinary course, and after this course we want to earn like millions of money, rupees, and in a very short span of time. But let me tell you very harsh reality. Private sector is a very cruel thing, cruel word I can say. Why I'm saying cruel, but equally rewarding. Why I'm saying this? Because think you are like a CEO of a company. Will you take one person just for the name? Okay, that person has done BBSc and AH from XYZ college, and would you like to give 5 lakh rupees without doing any work? Yes, there should be some minimum benchmark, and that should be respectable, but it should not be very exaggerated one. Why I'm saying this? Because private sector always evaluate your capability, and as everyone should understand, it's not a very fixed thing. Like you are in one company working for 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, like how many years, that doesn't matter. But if you are proving your worth, so money is secondary thing. You will get more than your expectation. That I'm telling you with very cautiously, because I have seen many friends who have earned a lot. There are many seniors who are doing really very good job on financial front, but again, they haven't started their corporate sector just to look at those crores rupees of package. They started, okay, they came, and today we were having one discussion, and I completely agree. We veterinarians in general come to the private sector just because we are not having any other opportunity. That's why we are struggling in this private sector, because we are not focused, we are not giving our 100% into our job. And if you are not giving 100% in job, the output will be relatively low, other will grow more, you will have frustration. There will be some say for example, if non-vet is your boss, what's harm in that? You will also grow, and someday you will also have the team of many vets and non-vets. There is no problem or no ego, something like that, ki I will not report to non-vet, or I can only take report from the vets. It's not a thing. In private sector, it's kind of true, you can say, democracy kind of thing, where you can report to anyone and anyone can report to you. It's your capability which take you at a next step. And package wise, initially you can say, if vets are going into the private sector, in our time it was very low, but now the things changed. 3 lakh, then 5 lakh. Even I have recruited many vets more than 5 lakh package. So I have never given any veterinarian package below 5 lakh. So that usually grow, and that again depend on the company where you are working. Say for example, if you are working in a cash rich company or in an MNC company who are having good financial strength, they will give you more and they will demand more from your side. It's not a case like we'll give you 10 lakh rupees and you are doing worth of 1 lakh rupees. How company will take you with that environment? So it's a kind of do your good job, get your good money. but it's not like that ki you will not get money. Like, but yes, first 1 year or 2 year will be definitely a struggling phase. First job will be definitely a struggling one. But my request to you, whosoever is interested in private sector, if you are coming in private sector, please have a kind of time slot, first 3 year, minimum first 3 year, as a time of your investment in private sector, because you don't know abcd of this word. You need to understand, and when you will understand that thing very quickly and then you will deliver, then your actual worth will come after your 3 years of job. Otherwise, what you are, just a person with that degree of bbsc and or mvsc. But after 3 years, you will be a person with that degree and that credential what you have done in last 3 years, and then your value will decide. So never ever go with those line ki अरे उसने इतने करोड़ का पैकेज मिल गया, यहाँ पे IIM का पैकेज मिल गया. That institution or degree gives only first job surety. But what about next 40 years or 50 years? It purely depends on your talent. It purely depends on your ownership, your decision taking, your worth. So my just submission is, don't focus on money in the first 2-3 years. Focus on your learnings. If you learn particular skill in first 3 years, definitely sky is the limit. And this is, I'm not just saying just to motivate you, this is the fact. But yes, majority of the veterinarians I have seen, they either compromise, they lost, they changed the job, they changed the stream, they came into the pharma sector, then went to the milk procurement sector, and they frustrated in this domain, then milk procurement domain, and then ultimately there was some job in government sector, and that fellow gone in that one. So my intention is, just focus on your learning in first 3 years, and then your value will be decided by the market automatically. And believe me, you will perform more, you will have very good opportunities in private sector. If you compare with the government sector, see, the problems are everywhere. In government setup also, just discuss with your senior or friends who are there, they are also struggling in that sector. So there are pros and cons. In private sector also, there may be very cheap companies, they are having very awkward HR policies, and if you are going in a very notorious company, so definitely they are ready to exploit you. But again, nobody is like locking you, or nobody is keeping yourself in a room. You are free, so you can take your decision. Have spend some time on your interest area in market, what is needed. So why I'm saying this, because things are changing very fast. Like 10 years ago, the situation was entirely different. Even when we entered in veterinary sector, that time we used to say like it's officers under training, because everyone was aware, okay, after 5 years there will be one second class gazetted officer post, and everyone was relaxed. What will happen? We'll go and get that job. After that, definitely government jobs are limited, and you cannot expect like everyone will get the government job. Then what next? You need to face that reality as early as possible. If you are getting that job, that's fine. If not, then what will you do? You will not criticize government this and that thing, why you are not it's their job to do. It's your career to decide yourself. So that the situation changed, and after then the private sector came. The poultry sector, it grown like anything in last 2 decades. So lots of veterinarians are doing really very good job. The interesting part is, from where, say for example, if I'm from UP, I will have my own mindset as per the UP experience. If one person is from Bihar, so they will have their own understanding of Bihar. If you are from Maharashtra or from Tamil Nadu or from Palampur, you can see your seniors or the environment, how the industry, like I'm telling you example of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is like, they are on world map in poultry. Namakkal is a kind of, you can say, if you put a word map of poultry, you will find Namakkal in Tamil Nadu. So in Tamil Nadu, they have grown very well in poultry segment. There are many entrepreneurs. They are doing really very good job. They are not dependent only on one aspect. In Maharashtra, if you go, so Maharashtra, many veterinary colleges were there. Like at our time, there were 5 veterinary colleges, and many students were coming, so they came into the private sector. Even there are many successful stories, the academicians who left the academic job and came into the private sector, and they are making their mark in private sector as a global level in nutrition, in pharma, in biologicals. I've seen many veterinarians who done PhD virology and doing very good job in R&D sector. So the point is, we cannot generalize the thing. Say, for example, if you are from West Bengal or from Odisha or from Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, you will have different mindset because the environment was like that. The industry in your area grown like that. In UP, the whole mindset is different. They are having different understanding. The market will grow, then everyone will grow. Like in Tamil Nadu, it grown like anything. So the veterinarians also grow. Like take an example of Punjab. So in Punjab, everyone respect, like in field veterinarians are well respected. They're earning lots of money. So the practice toward clinical side, toward gynae side, towards dairy management, you will find that the Punjab is doing really very good job. Similarly in Haryana also. So it's not like generalization of one thing कि अरे ये सब बेकार है और ये सब अच्छा है. It's not a case. So we need to look into that aspect as well. So that's why I suggest, if you are doing your UG or PG, you must do from two different colleges in two different states. So now I just covered the second question about the annual package. So that's a really secondary thing. You may feel like a very tricky thing ki how I'm saying this, but believe me, in private sector, money will not be a concern. That rest assured. If you are a good R&D person, companies will give more than your expectation to have you in their R&D lab to develop more good quality vaccines, good quality products, good quality, you can say, technical guidance to their customers. Money is definitely secondary thing. It's only your capability where you are proving it or not. There are many young person, they are getting lots of money. Now I'm coming to the third point, third question. I'm not interested in sale. Do I have some option in private sector? Yes, you definitely have. It's not only about sales. There are many, as I mentioned about the corporate R&D, that scope is there. And one question was also came on, I think on YouTube, like someone is doing PG or PhD in toxicology. Like Johnson and Johnson, they usually also hire. So there are many opportunity, and we veterinarians, like what we are doing in Equines, we are having that. I think to not distract from our own path, we are having that, and we need to open our vision. It's not like that we are only in veterinary domain. Like pharma is such a nice field where you can go anywhere. Like in human pharma, there is one successful example. Dr. Ajay, he done, I think, MSc in veterinary pharmacology. Then he did PhD in like pharmacology from AIMS. Then he was a teacher in medical college in Kathmandu. Now he is there in US. So my point is, pharma and toxicology, you can, and there he's running his own company. So point is, you can go in the government sector as well as in private sector. And in private sector also, you need not to focus only on veterinary pharma. You can go anywhere, because M pharma, B pharma, they are going everywhere. Why not? We can go and explore the world. And definitely, we are definitely having edge over other pharma students. So I think we need to look on that side as well. So now I'm coming to the next question. I'm not sure whether PhD can join private sector or not. I already answered this question, because corporate R&D is seriously, they are in need of good researchers. But yes, as I said earlier, if you are going into the corporate world, there will be good preparation from your side. Say, for example, if you're doing your PhD in nutrition, so as we all know, in PhD, we are going in a very, very narrow level of doing something. But the company who is selling, say, for example, if they are in nutrition, they may not have that understanding of your area, but they require more things. So at least from PhD nutrition, it is expected to do all sort of things in nutrition domain, because you have that mindset rather than that research or that topic you are working in. So for example, there is a company like Lallemand, they are dealing in yeast, DSM, Kemin. These are the good companies who are working working in the nutrition domain, do you have something in that? Like in biologicals, PhDs are required. Like we in Hester, we are doing research in biologicals. So we also need virologists who are doing really good research. And to be very frank, in biologicals, we are lacking, especially in nutrition. There is a kind of scarcity. Even in case of you can say diagnostics, also only few companies are doing their job. So yes, there is an opportunity for PhDs as well, but you need to plan accordingly, because it's not like that if you are not getting a job, then you are coming to the private sector. Rather than invest some time, minimum 6 month time to work on it and come to the private sector, be it PhD or UG or PG, whosoever it is. So now, yes, slaughterhouse issue came in our discussion. Again, LPT is a very good domain where you can start your own business. So entrepreneurship, again, it's again a part of private sector, because you will be the owner. Again, you will be kind of in coming time, you will be having one company. So again, it's a kind of entrepreneurship is not separate entity than the private sector. You are part of integral part of private sector. So you will start your work, and again you will need some more team members in near future. So you need to look into those understandings rather than criticizing the things. Now coming to the LPT, AGB, LPM, and extension particularly. So like in private sector, more or less, especially in sales and marketing, when I'm saying, so there these kind of demarcation of LPM or AGB or this is a sort of secondary. If you are from, say for example, if you are from extension, so you have that skill to talk and to convince anyone about any input or technology or something like that. So that skill is needed in sales and marketing. So if you are having that skills, so company will be interested to look into it. And the unfortunate part is, say for example, if you are from AGB, so you have to have that understanding about the germplasm, what kind of germplasm companies are coming. So you have better chance to go into those companies who are dealing into the germplasm segment, or who are dealing into your related things. Say for example, sex sorted semen, and there is some technology or some equipment company at a global level. So there you have more chance rather than selling one medicine. So whatever you are doing, you have to understand your skills, your subject knowledge first, and then go for private sector and getting the things. Now I'm moving to the next question. It is NGO also part of private sector? What is the scope of NGO? And then the question I have mentioned this morning from Chinmay Gupta about the NGO and other things. So let's talk and spend some time on NGO thing. What exactly NGO is? The full form is non-government organizations. So which is non-government organizations? So they are kind of NGOs, and especially like NGOs are primarily, or you can say historically, it was kind of some activists who started this. Say for example, they found some pressing need or some problem in society, and they started working on it. And why they created NGO? Because like to discuss or to debate or to present your case, you need one legal entity. So that's why the organization came into the picture. So that is NGO. So primarily it was started with one mission or objective or something to solve one problem or to raise a voice in particular segment. But over a period of time, like last 2-3 decades, it changed, and the NGO came into the development mode, because there may be many different kind of NGOs. Some are very, you can say, having different ideas in solving the social problem, or dealing with taboo, crime, criminal, so many things. But the development part when came into the NGO, so they are primarily working on developing or something, solving the society's problem in a developmental mode rather than going debating and creating some destruction. That's why this segment is also considered as a development sector. We say NGO as a part of development sector. And whenever we are saying development sector, so you just imagine ki, Dr. Gupta, you must listen this carefully. From where the fund will come? because earlier it was the case ki the funds were coming from various donations and the companies and everyone giving the money, and the group of people who were forming NGO, and they were usually doing the job. But in India, like the corruption came into the picture, and uh, more than 80-90% NGOs, they are into that domain of getting some fund either from big corporates or from the government, and doing some job and Photoshop and this and that thing. But again, this sector is not viable if there is no funding. So government stopped funding, so crunch has come. Even big companies, they are also, the CSR came into the domain, and companies who are having a profitability of more than 100 crores, they were advised to give 2% of their profit into the CSR fund or a thing. So the funding in this development sector squeezed. So many of the NGOs, they closed down. But fortunately, livestock was nowhere in those initiatives or NGOs. They were in all different domains. They were even in agriculture. But livestock sector was considered as a, you can say, it was not even considered till 2005. So first time when Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they came into the picture, and they realized the potential of livestock sector in solving the bigger problems, say for example poverty reduction. Then livestock sector emerged as a very good thing in development sector. Now the bigger NGOs came and the initiatives came into the picture, and this is really interesting thing to look into the livestock sector, because it is not only solving one problem of poverty, but it is also solving many problems of nutrition security, job employments, and you can say the in one health or the sustainable development. So livestock sector as of now is a very very good sector for the development activities. Now the point is, from where the money will come, because government will have very irregular funding schedule, even the big companies will not give. So your question, what I like very much, where you asked how does one NGO work, and the sustain financially, because definitely if there is no source from outside, so it has to generate its own fund. But again, the question is, and majority of NGOs are not for profit. So if you are running one company with not for profit motive, how you will earn? So then the concept came of social business. So I will give you one, just for the sake of understanding for each and everyone, because we are talking about the private sector. You know, if you draw one line at one end, you just write for profit company, and at the extreme end, you write not for profit company or organization. So there are two different extreme. At one extreme, whatever you will do for profit. Here, whatever you will do just for one mission, not for profit. So there is a gap, because you see many companies who are doing profit, but they are establishing their own foundations and their own NGOs or development companies. Like all the big companies, be it Tata, they are having their organization like Tata Trust, Reliance Foundation, even everyone, all the big companies, they are having their own foundations, either their own or they are assisting the foundation, and those development organization, they are doing their job. So at least they are having one source of funding from their side. And here in this case, who are purely not for profit, they also face this problem of finance. So they have started doing some job where they ask their beneficiary to give some money against the services, and that's very nominal, and it's not a very huge amount. So small money they started also working. So like the earlier NGOs who are working, they are coming into the financial mode. So there is a gap, or hybrid organizations who are either coming from the profit side or coming from the not for profit side. So these are the companies or the NGOs who are working in that domain, where either they are generating small amount from their beneficiaries, or they are supported by some funding agency, and then only sustainability will come. And whatever intervention you are doing, or in NGO or in development sector, that intervention has to be self-sustainable. Say for example, if you are there in remote area of Uttarakhand, and there are sheep farmers, and there is no vaccination or no treatment or something like that. If you are doing something for them and asking them, okay, we will extend your animal health services like on quarterly basis because you are inaccessible in those areas, or in Himachal Pradesh, can you give some money? Because at least your farmer, your sheep or goats are dying because of various diseases. So farmers also, they will pay for good, you can say, services. So then there will be a trade off. You will also get some money to extend the service, and they will also get the services and they will spend the money. Then the cycle will run and you will earn some money, and gradually it will grow, and you will have that kind of financial sustainability of that intervention. So the whole idea behind this whole discussion is, what exactly is your intervention, what problem you are solving, and is there any scope of profit in solving that problem? If answers are yes, then you are having good intervention, and you can go for this NGO or that not for profit company. Again, I'm saying not for profit company. So company is a part of that kind of private sector thought you will have. So there is a clause in Indian Companies Act where they are having article, there is section 8 companies. You can establish a company, the motive will be not for profit, and it will have the advantage of companies, as well as you can solve your, or you can do your job, whatever you have think for NGOs. So that's my some of the submission in a short about your NGOs. And as you asked, what is the difference between business and NGO? I clearly tried to describe. Business, they will purely work for the profit. Not for profit, like the NGOs who are working exclusively for not for profit, they will definitely not into the profit making. But there is a hybrid organizations, and they are doing really very good job. And if you like some example I've given from Tata Trust, like which came from profit side, and from this side I can give you example like Biof is a kind of system where they started working on that side. Earlier very nominal charge, now they are adding more you can say services and charges they are putting into it. Even we started also this kind of similar services in vaccination in Odisha, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, where the vaccinators, they were going into the tribal areas and doing vaccination, and against that they are charging 2 rupees or 3 rupees. So for any tribal lady, that 2 rupees from one bird, from one family, it usually gives per month 3-4 thousand rupee for that tribal lady, and that's more than sufficient for her to do the business. So that kind of interventions many organizations do. I will recommend few names. Please note it down. Heifer International, they are doing really very good job. Then Antra is a one NGO. Dr. Nitya Godke from Maharashtra, she's doing that NGO. They are also doing very good job, and they are purely not for profit and doing very good business. So these are some of the examples. Even there is National Smallholder, what is that? NS, Smallholder Poultry Development Trust. That is also again a very good model where you can have profit as well as social cause blend there. So they have intervened in Maharashtra, in MP and Jharkhand. So you also look on those lines. And if anything else is needed, we will discuss more separately. So now I'm coming to the next question. Yes, some companies came to our university, but they were offering very less packages. Is package always low? Again, we have discussed about the package, and there was one question about the package. Sir, please tell how much salary I can fetch in private clinics. Very good question. Of some other doctor after BSc, MSc with no experience at all. So yes, and that question and the listed question number 8, the same thing. I'm just going to tell you one thing. I got a call from a clinic in Delhi, and the doctor said, Rahul, you know many professionals. Can you connect me with some of the person who can do or assist me in surgery? I asked, sir, how much money you will give? He said, I can give that person more than 1 lakh rupees. depending, he or she can handle the surgical cases with me. And the test will be, he or she has to come with me on first surgery, and in first surgery I will decide how much money I will give to him or herself. So the interesting part, Harpal, what you have asked about how much money can give. Again, I'm saying or repeating it again. If you are good in surgery, you can start very well. Like there is a chain in Delhi NCR. The veterinarians who did their UG degree from Chennai, because Chennai is a very good veterinary college in medicine and surgery. So they are having their whole own chain veterinary clinics, and they are well connected. So they are doing really very good job, and you can own your own clinic and start with that franchisee. You can join the veterinary clinics here in Delhi or in Mumbai or wherever you want. You get very good money, but again, good is a very subjective thing. How much? It may be 20,000, it may be 50,000, it may be 1 lakh, it may be more than 2 lakhs rupees. I'll I'll tell you, one of my friend who was there in Chennai medicine, and he completed his MBSc from Chennai, and after that he was there in race course, and it took more than 6 months uh, because that qualified professional was not allowed to put hand on the horses. After 6 months training in that race course, he was inducted in the treatment and other things. And after that, he was in a very lavish lifestyle. Like, you can't imagine those kind of money from where that race course and those owners and the things were coming. So, like in equine surgery, can you imagine the money? There are examples of the veterinary surgeons. For them, helicopters are coming to pick them up to treat the horse. So the point is, in case of companion animal treatment, just imagine there may be a clinic where nothing will come, and there may be a clinic where there are queues, numbers are coming for the surgery, and they are getting more than lakh rupees. And as you said, with no experience at all, that's a big question. If you are going into the clinic with your 2 degrees MSc or something UG, you have to have that basic understanding. Start with that clinics, or learn so many things, and gradually your value will go high and high. There will be no point of return. That's a beauty of clinician. Like human surgeon, you are the main veterinary domain. And believe me, veterinary surgeons in Delhi, just come and join that group. There is usually they conduct one gathering where all the these veterinary clinics and the surgeons, they get together. That's a very classy thing. I think what's Vetopias is a group. So you must join and go into that, and uh, you will find that kind of feel. How much money is flowing into the private sector, especially in the clinics you're talking about, and it's a very good way to explore your thing. So now I'm coming to the last few questions. Is there any scope working in private sector in abroad, in private sector? Definitely. Again, we are restricting ourselves into the boundary of our own state. I can say even in UP, they are saying in Eastern UP, I want job. In Maharashtra, someone is saying, no, I want in that part only. That's not a case. Like you cannot work only in Tamil Nadu. You can go across India. You can go anywhere. Even like Southeast Asian countries, our many seniors are working there in Singapore, Bangkok, and they are doing really very good job. And there are many like companies, they are taking person from here and they are settled in US. So there is definitely scope in private sector and abroad. Now the last question in that list: how should I prepare for the private sector and how much time it requires? Again, I said this previously. You need to understand first your skill set, your post. Like if you are in UG, you need to understand yourself, where you feel like you are happy and dealing with that. Like if you are interested in clinics, you need to look into that sector. If you are interested in surgeries, you need to look into that. If you are interested in nutrition, you should learn those things. And how much time, especially that's a very tricky thing. You need to understand what exactly the industry is. Say for example, if you are coming into the private sector in nutrition domain, you need to list it out, how many, like top 10 companies in India, top 10 companies in the world, what exactly they are doing, what kind of product they are selling. Can I do something in that domain? Can And do your work and your UG program. If you are in fourth year, who is restricting you or who is stopping you? Just go there and look into the dairy farms. What kind of products they are using? Are they using enzyme? Are they using mycotoxin? Are they using any toxin binders? Something like that. If yes, then what? Go to the poultry farmers and look into that thing. What kind of enzymes they are using? What is the practices? Acidifier, the new things, new products. What is coming? What are the products coming to the market? If you look into that aspect, automatically you will have that you know understanding about. Just a minute, battery is going low. Yeah, sorry. So my point is, it's up to you. You need to look into the your interest area, then the industry segment, nutrition, medicine, biologicals, wherever you want to go, and in that do extensive research, like what we are doing review. So what kind of companies are there? What kind of products are there? Interact with different person. Don't make judgment based on one person's point. Don't make judgment what I am telling you today. Discuss with more than 10% and then decide. So these are the some of the points, and for that how much time you will take, it's up to you. So I think I have covered my submission to you all on these 10 points, and Dr. Gupta's point on NGOs. Now Shaurya is mentioning, sir, can you please answer my question too? Okay. What is there? I'm just going from upside and again I'm looking at the questions. Mm-mm-mm. So you may ask any question in the chat box. I'm just searching Saur's question. Yes, there is a question. Tell me about entrepreneurship and studying. A very good point. I was missing it. Some of us are confused that at this situation, if we have some business plan, we should go for higher studies or the first executive. That's a really thank you very much, Shaurya. This is really interesting question, and that the same question I lived. I can say it because after UG, I was planning to start my own setup. Then I got the chance in IVRI medicine, so I went for the medicine because like medicine, IVRI kind of Makkah Madina for the veterinary world. So went to that place, and after MBA, this MVSC, MBA came into the picture. Even my in first interview, the interviewer who was the vice president of that company, he only asked about my startup, what I'm thinking, and he said, Rahul, if you want to start your setup, you can start it right now because you don't have anything to lose. But after 5 years, you will have good salary, you will have good status. Then that will be a very difficult situation to lose that thing and start your own from scratch. So these are the words from the interviewer, who is now MD of one MNC at a global level. So even I met last year, and I said, "Sir, you interviewed me in private sector, and that was my first interview, and you just discussed about my setup, and you said I cannot open my setup after 5 years, and that was very true, and that was a point. So I'm sharing the same thing with you. Now coming to this point, on serious note, what is happening? The mindset is everyone is looking after one domain, and everyone's saying about the positive things about this thing, like entrepreneurship. You are be a job giver, not job seeker. Be a change agent, this thing, that thing, and that will be always glorified, like, oh, you are the winner, you are the ultimate hero. But that hero always know what kind of pains and gains he or she is getting. I have seen more than 20 close friends who went into that path, and I'm not saying that's not rewarding or that's a complete failure. They are doing really very good job. Some are struggling very very difficult level, but some are very successful. The positive sides, everyone say. The negative sides, they keep quiet, or they say, okay, only 20% successful, but they will not say 80% are failed. So my point is, we need to look entrepreneurship as one option, as we are looking at government job, private sector, as well as entrepreneurship. So whenever we are saying entrepreneurship, that's again one part, and that is not a like कि अगर सक्सेसफुल हुए तो राजा और फेल हो गए तो एकदम से बर्बाद हो जाएंगे. That's not a case. There will be a fair chance of success, fair chance of failure. But what I felt, if you are looking at an entrepreneurial aspect, you are developing yourself as an entrepreneur, and that is very, very good thing. So that wherever you will be, you may start your business or you may not start your business, but the mindset will be evolved. You will be at a higher level than the other people, because you are having that mindset of looking at uncertainty. You are planning something. You can look at any problem differently. So what I feel, entrepreneurship, that is perfectly fine. You can start after your UG program because you have less liabilities. There is no doubt about it. But again, there is a kind of understanding that after 5 years or 10 years, when we'll have experience, then we'll start. So as I said earlier, even I can say myself, if I start, okay, I will leave everything and I'll go with zero. So again, it will be a big decision. But yes, some of my friends, they have done this thing. One friend recently started his company. So again, that's purely your decision how you are looking at it, because like there is no isolated path of your thing, of your job or entrepreneurial journey. There is interconnected thing. Like in family, what is the financial conditions? What are your financial liabilities? Yeah, obligations. What you have, your wife, your kids, your family obligations. So there are many things, and that's why entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone. Because I've seen one person has said very, I can say, rudely, कि business यार वही करता है जिसके पास सारे रास्ते बंद हो जाते हैं, तो वो business करने जाता है, and then only he will be successful. If there is any path or any door is open, so he will go with that path. So I cannot deny completely, but yes, you need to look into this thing, because I have seen the business plan development, business, even government is giving 5 lakh, 25 lakh rupees. That is not a surety for a good business. So my submission to you is, Shaurya, if you have sound business plan, start doing something in your UG program. At least you have that taste of money earning, because that will be the first time you will earn something. So I'm not sure. Are you in UG or in PG? Sure. Yeah. So if you are in UG, at least you earn at least 100 rupee. Then you will feel how this 100 rupee will, and then start working on it. Because nowadays there are many entrepreneurs who are saying big words in front of everyone, but I know at personal level they're nothing. So it's not a kind of showmanship. It's your own career. So I think you need to learn how money is being earned and how money will generate more money from that earning. So for that, you need not to have 20 lakh rupee investment. You can start with a very smaller one. Say for example, if you are in Pannagar, you are in final year. That's fine. So you must be having some idea. So just try that idea. Say for example, you cannot go and you can open a kind of dairy farm in final year, but you can have, I don't know about your business plan. Say for example, if you are having something to add value to milk and selling to the market, so just try it. Make some product, go and sell it, and earn some money in your market only. If you earn that thing, say for example, just make curd or cheese or something, XYZ, whatever you think, and just go and sell, then you will feel that experience of entrepreneurship. Even we can discuss later. Whatever your business plan is, look into this. and explore ki how can you earn, what is your financial plan. And if you are interested, so definitely there is no harm to invest your 1 year in entrepreneurship. Go and explore the world, and definitely I'll tell you, you will get so much of learning what any MBA, be it IIM, will not give. If you spend 1 year in entrepreneurial journey, even you can discuss with, if you are from Pantnagar, you can discuss with Dr. Ibn Ali. He's doing really very good job. He must be your senior, or your few seniors are also working. One person, what's his name? He has done MBA and is doing some job. So you can explore your seniors and work with them, and you will be very much happy to learn the process, how the things are being done, how decisions being made, what kind of resource planning is required, and you will be really happy, and you will learn more than MBAs. Yeah, whatever they are teaching in the college. So that's a field learning. So now I'm taking next question. Shaurya, we can discuss later. And okay. Hi, Aman. I'm just trying my best and searching few more questions. Astosh, towards the subject under recognition which has scope in future. That's interesting question. Astosh, you know, like the subjects in veterinary science, if you're looking at it, so the my point is, there is no such you can say relative ranking or grading where you can say this subject is having a great thing and that subject is not a scope, not having any scope. Say for example, in veterinary science, if you are talking about, so virology, you are in medicine, you are in surgery, you are in epidemiology, you are in preventive health. So all these are important. Now, if you are looking at the future and the current pandemic is going on, and now everyone is talking about One Health. So definitely, One Health aspect require your broad approach, multilateral, you can say discussions where you can incorporate many things. So these areas are definitely will be very helpful. And as you mentioned about the government and private sector, so I can say say for example, virologists, they will always be in demand because vaccine production we need. And in fact, we cannot only look into the veterinary side. You know, like the current pandemic gives a very interesting platform for India to be a global hub for vaccine production. And for vaccine production, be it veterinary or human, it's only virologist. So these are the areas which will be very good. And as I said about One Health, in India we don't consider epidemiology as a good subject, but across the globe, epidemiology is very good subject and highly respectable area. In India, we either putting in some subject and some different subject. So epidemiology and preventive health is a kind of another good area. And surgery, evergreen area. If you are a good surgeon, till death your value will be increased. There is no doubt about it. So surgery, gynae, these are the two areas your value will always increase. In case of medicine, that's a very that's an area which give you a wider perspective. You can go anywhere with medicine. Like in private sector also, you can explore different parts. In clinics also, you can go into the medicine. So medicine is like a kind of generalized thing, and that's giving you wider perspective. And it is not very much similar to virologist, because in virologist definitely you will go into the research and development either in private sector or in government sector or in abroad, global labs. So these are some of the things I think, Astosh, from my side to you. So Akash Sharma, sir, this year I missed MBBS by 3 marks. Should I take admission in BBS? Mere bhai. Okay, I will not answer this question, but I am giving you one recent conversation I had with one of my very good junior, who is IFS, the civil services. So he's having a very good position. So I asked a similar question. We are coming into the veterinary domain by compulsion, because we didn't got the seat in MBBS, so we came into the BBSc. And then first year, second year, dealing in farm or dairy animals, we usually frustrated. So like what is happening, uh, with that frustration we are losing our opportunity. So that was our discussion. So he laughed, and he said, "Arey sir, you can't believe, even IPS they are frustrated because they didn't get job, that they didn't get that IAS seat." So that frustration or comparison is, if you're doing that comparison, you will always do, and you will always be frustrated. So my suggestion to you is, Akash, whatever you are deciding, if you wish to continue your preparation for MBBS, do it. Don't hurry for BBSc. But when you join BBSc, then 100% be in BBSc. It should not be like that कि you always crib, oh 3 number रह गए, नहीं तो मैं तो बहुत बड़ा डॉक्टर हो गया होता. That's not a case, boss. So take your time. If you wish to go to MBBS, go there, do your preparation. Try next time. But if you are coming to BBSc, please come with 100% mind maker. Discuss with more than 10%, 20% BBSc persons, successful, failed, and in different domain, private sector, government sector, and then decide it. And as I said earlier, I will not prescribe, or I will not give a kind of judgment kind of thing. No, you do that thing, that thing. No, take your time, take your decision. But I am saying, for BBSc, there is no, you can say, there is no comparison between MBBS and BBSc. BBSc gives your widest spectrum of working. You can work anywhere, but yes, MBBS is having different. It's your positives and negatives. So take your time, take your decision. My submission to you is, if you are coming to the BBSc, you have not mentioned which college you are from, which state you are. So no. Akash, don't do this thing. Along with BBSc, should I prepare for MBBS? Then you will be nowhere. So don't do this thing, because you may find many person doing this kind of thing, because they feel ki okay, kya jata hai, in first year, second year we will prepare, and even in third year they usually do that exam, medical exams. But my point from UP, so I think it's up to you. In UP, the mindset is like this only. In colleges, you will go in Mathura, in Faizabad, everywhere. You will find a few people, they are working for MBBS, even if they are in first year, second year, or in third year. So that's a typical mindset of UP or North Indian state, I can say. So, in my opinion, you don't do this thing, because with this you will neither learn BBSc nor you will focus on MBBS. Because one of my friend, he was preparing for MBBS in first year, and he struggled a lot. And if you are not giving focus in first year and second year, your foundation will be weak, and then the future will be really difficult. So you may find many person who can say ki, no, do this thing, that thing, enrolled in BBSc and do preparation for MBBS. But that's not my philosophy, and I will not recommend this thing. If you are coming in BBSc, come with the full mind. Otherwise, you will be frustrated. Definitely, first 2 years you will be frustrated, and for frustrated person or demotivated person cannot give 100%. So you will not give your 100% to your preparation as well. So thank you, Akash. I can get IVRA or even Pannagar this year. So again, I said my point, and it's up to you. If you further want to discuss, you can have a separate discussion with me. Now I'm going to the next other question. Okay, Viper Venom. That's a very funny thing. Young people do. Viper Venom. Is it good to go to master in public health or master in public? Yes. That's a very good area which is coming in future, especially veterinary public health, or in say in general public health. That's a very good area. I don't know what's your good name, Mister or Miss Viper Venom, but it's a really very good area to go ahead with this. So now I'm just scrolling up and looking at some of the questions, if there is anything. Dr. Akriti, what can a postgraduate student in veterinary extension education can do after PhD other than PhD? That's a really very good question, Akriti. And like extension education, I'm not sure how well it was those 2 years. But what I feel, extension person, they can do very good job in field, in corporate sector if you wish to come into, because many companies want many good, you can say, orator, or the person who can convince on the basic thing. And like in India, we are predominantly smallholder farming setup. So we are not like US and having a very sophisticated talk each and every time. So we need very good communicator in field, or technology disseminator. So basically, in what is happening in government system, they are also disseminating the technologies through KVKs or through other mode. And the similar thing is happening in corporate world. They are also disseminating knowledge about newer things, and improving the profitability of dairy farm, poultry farm, pig farm, sheep farm, or fish farm. So those things you can explore. And as you mentioned, what can a post graduate student do after PG? So you have scope in private sector, but for that you need to look into it and explore. And other than PhD, as you mentioned, you can even for entrepreneurial journey, you have option. In private sector, you have option. So these are the some of the areas where you can look into. And yeah, and one thing, because Kriti, I'll tell you, because women's role in corporate sector is a concern. I was discussing with some veterinary scholars who are doing a good job in corporate sector, girls. And I feel sorry for this condition, because I feel there is a gender discrimination. But things are changing very fast. You can explore abroad also. There are many initiatives. You can look into various initiatives in sustainable development which is going on. LD4D, livestock data for development, is a very good initiative where you can look into it. So they are looking into that socio-economic aspects. And you can also look into the gap finder. There is one organization, they are also doing a good job. So these are some of the areas. If anything else, you can mail me and we can discuss later. And that's a submission as of now for you, because we are getting, it's 4:11. We have crossed our time. Anything else? Any question? I'm just following up. I think. So, Shaurya, we have done your questions. Okay. So I think we have done majority of the questions, and we have to close it. Keshav, okay. Third year, BHU, okay. After UG, I want to prepare a UPSC along with part-time job in NRC. Is this okay, or go with the full-time preparation? And okay, so that's a really Keshav. If you are in BHU and in third year, so you have time. And, I can say like. So you, but please ensure that going courses. So you have good time. You are in 30, you have at least to go. So just do one thing. Do preparation for UK with your basic program. But for that, you need to regularly check your both the preparations, like how well your UPSC is going on. You need some exams, like before your eligibility also you can give, and you can assess where you are getting advanced. Are you somewhere close to that goal or not? If yes, then you must pursue that thing. But there should not be any compromise on your veterinary. I'm not sure whether you have done your proper focus on the first 2-3 years of courses. If not, then I'm afraid you will not be a very good veterinarian after 5 years. And I wish if you will be successful in UPSC, then you will be on different path. That's a good thing. But if not, then you will struggle for your BVSC, like for your veterinary career. So my suggestion to you is you can go ahead with this one without compromising your BVSC, and just checking your preparations status if that is fine. And yeah, it's okay to go full time preparation. See, you completely cut off from BVSC, so totally waste of 3 years. So I as per my understanding, that I will not to look into it. Yeah. So I think Keshav, I just answered. Yeah. The questions are, I mean to say that between the Master in Public Health from AIMS, JIPMER, versus Masters in Veterinary Public Health from IVRI. See, and if you are getting public health from AIMS, I think relatively that's if you are getting that thing after BVSC program, you have already done your BVSC, and now you are coming to the public health, and that too from the premier medical institute as well as human health. While in case of veterinary public health, though we are saying we are in that veterinary public health, but primarily we are focusing on the veterinary aspect only. Public health generally missing so many things beyond zoonosis in public health. So judgment will be yours. Yeah. Any other question? Because it's 4:16. So I think if there is no question, so we can close this discussion, and I will be available with you all. Connect with by sending email or on LinkedIn. I think I'll request you all to start your professional career. Sorry if I missed. What is this? So I will start my VUC from January in Goa, okay, and Maharashtra. You give me some tips to enhance the learning experience. Oh wow, that's a very good question. The name Primal Survivor and Hypervenom. If you wish to share your name, that will about the internship and looking at the entrepreneur study. You know, like as I said earlier, entrepreneurship cannot be like it cannot taught in classroom, or nobody will give you lecture, or nowadays YouTube is filled with so many motivational speakers, and they are claiming like do business, this thing, that thing. There are so many positive stories are being flooded about entrepreneurship. But my only humble suggestion to anyone who experiences, don't invest money to earn, rather than start a small amount with the skills, whatever you are thinking, whatever your plan is, and then you will feel the experience. So internship, especially as you mentioned in Goa, Maharashtra is a very good option, because Maharashtra and Goa, it's a kind of you can say immense opportunity for entrepreneurship, because the society is also entrepreneurial friendly, I can say. So what is happening, you need to describe first what exactly your business plan is. But what I can say to you, just note down your interest in wish to involve in entrepreneurship or business. Is it your some input or output or process or model? What exactly it is? So, so if it is input, say for example, if you are interested in animal feed or medicine or vaccines, something like that, or you are interested in output like meat, milk, egg, whatever it may be, or the process, like why can't we start something like some international IT enabled services, like you can have various models as of now, like Country Delight is having. You can have an app and start selling something on through that app. So that kind of thing, even you can use your WhatsApp, or you can have some dairy farmers over there and associate with some production facilities. Say for example, one dairy farmer is there in Maharashtra in your locality, and if he or she is there, they are producing milk more than 500 liters. So can you add some value into that with your skills, with your thought, whatever you are thinking? If you are thinking to sell milk or to add value to milk, so why not to have something, purchase 100-liter milk, or have that understanding with that person or that dairy farm, involve with them and facilitate their selling. So if with your intervention, is there any increase in 10% in the profit? If yes, then you are doing good job. So you need to understand those basics, what exactly is happening. Say for example, in Maharashtra, poultry is doing very good. So you can associate with some poultry farmer. With your skill, you can add value. Can you look into the poultry farm and just do your assessment? You find some gaps in their business with your skills? Is there was some startups, they started working on Kadaknath poultry. So can you add some value on selling that poultry or something like that? Or like some advisory services, there are many veterinarians who are in clinics, they are doing very good job in Maharashtra. So you can associate with them. So it depends on your idea, what exactly you are thinking in entrepreneurship. Are you interested in clinics? Because in Maharashtra there are many clinics who are doing very good job. If yes, you need to associate with that clinic and learn how they are earning money and where you can intervene. What will be the output of your intervention? If there is some output, then you will be on the right path of entrepreneurship. But only looking at the intervention, like this is for everyone whosoever is interested in entrepreneurship. We are always focusing on our thought. "Ki, I will do this thing, but what will be the outcome? Whether anyone will give you 100 rupee or not for that. If yes, then only that is feasible. No? Otherwise, there is no fun of having only idea, because idea doesn't matter. It's a successful idea which brings profit to the setup, then only you will be good. So if you are doing your entrepreneurship or internship, you can explore these things, or we can discuss separately what is your idea and how you can add value to your plans while doing your internship in Maharashtra and Goa. So I think and that's my submission to you. So Astosh, my question is above regarding PG in biomedical engineering by IIT after UC. That's a really very good thing. So IITs, definitely they will broaden your vision. So if there is something like this, if you are willing to go into the biomedical engineering, must try it. There is big yes from my side, because there are many kind of companies which are coming into this domain, and they are not getting the good manpower. So yes, you can go ahead with that. But again, you need to look for long term vision, where you need not to focus for your other government job, which is for which everyone is struggling. How can I connect with you? So Akash, you can mail me, and then we'll discuss later. Comparison of scope between AGB and animal nutrition in private sector. That's an interesting question, Ashish, and I think looking at the perspective, uh, animal nutrition is relatively better, because many established companies are there in animal nutrition, and small to big companies, they are doing really very good job, and in sales, marketing, even in R&D or in technical services, everything is there for animal nutrition. Regarding AGB, relatively the industry is not well developed in India, but across the globe they are very developed. And if you look at the European market, they are filled with those person who are there in genetics. I have few friends who are there in Roslin, and they are doing really very good job, and they are from genetics. So they are the corporate R&D as well as the global labs who are there in genetics. They are very much growing, and I think if you're looking for AGB and private sector or something like this, in India, relatively less option, but yes, outside options are more. Animal nutrition, poultry, this is cattle or poultry nutrition. Again, see, for any comparison, you need to look at the sector which is growing. Like poultry sector, last 2 years, 2 decades, or you can say 3 decades, they changed the whole situation. Like earlier, we were nowhere in poultry 3 decades ago, but now we are on the top five in eggs and meat. So poultry industry has grown, and when it grown, so every segment with poultry grown, like biologicals, nutrition, jump plant, everything. So that's why poultry is more organized industry, and cattle definitely it's slightly lagging behind in terms of commercialization. But the point is, when poultry has grown, so it have more player, so more competition is there in poultry. In cattle, we have less competition. So again, you will find cattle nutrition is also a growing area, and you can look into these prospects. So poultry is no doubt it's a good area. Even companion animal in India, we are not focusing on companion animal, but pet nutrition is again a very good area where we are not focusing. So I think in nutrition, you can say pet nutrition is also a very good thing. You can look into it. Yeah, Dr. Ashish, I think I've given my inputs to you. So, anyone else? Any question? Uh, what is it? Nothing. Yeah, Ashutosh. Sunday, second half, actually, why I'm discussing this because like I have received many queries about these areas. So that's not with my professional thing. So usually I have very limited time. So that's why you can see whenever I'm communicating either in late evening or nights, something on Sundays. So I will try, but I will not say my commitment to this thing. But definitely I'll try. My only focus with especially with the UG student, because they don't have fixed mindset at least, so they can learn and they can grow and they can grow mold themselves. But in case of PG and PhD, and when you are going further, the mindset is become rigid, and if you are well planned, you will go ahead. Otherwise, some resistance came. So I think that's good to have this kind of interaction. This is kind of informal interaction we have done. So I'll be available, and it's difficult for me to make a particular video with this, but I will definitely try. So thank you, everyone. If there is no question, I think I've shared my email ID. That is Dr. Rahul IVRA. There is no comma or underscore. TRRAHULIVRA@gmail.com. So I think if we are done, it was really interesting thing. Dare sir. Devesh sir is our senior from IVRI. Is there in Palampur and doing such a great job. So I'm also learning from him. Yeah, just to add, those who wish to join government sector job rules which have changed. Yes, sir. That's a very valid and very interesting point you have raised. And yes, I'll. The point sir is mentioning, like what is happening. That's all the students who are in this interaction. Uh, Government, like everywhere, state government or the central, they are trying to have more policies which is pro farmer. So pro farmer policies need to be well understood first, then you can communicate. So if you are not having that understanding about the society, how pro farmer policies can be implemented, if you are not able to understand, then you will not deliver the things. So unfortunately, I think majority of our professionals who are there in government setup, like in state animal husbandry departments, they are struggling to manage the show. And I will give you one example. Like being private company, we usually have some farmers meeting, and uh, I started one division, veterinary social business, and the core job was uh, to give knowledge about vaccinations, especially in backyard poultry for Newcastle disease, in sheep and goat for PPR. So whenever we were discussing the thing, so mostly in our all cases, more than 50 or 100 farmers will usually come. So one friend of mine, very good friend of mine, he called me and he said, Rahul, in your programs, so many farmers are coming, but in our setup, uh, even we are giving a free food and a vehicle, but they are not coming for these kind of programs. So that was really very interesting point, and then I understood one thing which we are missing, and that is very well understood by extension person, because they know how society behave, how farmer behave, and we usually, like all the person who are not gone through extension activities or handling the societies, they usually do whatever they feel that is right. But while dealing in society, you need to understand what society want, how they behave, what is the best time to interact, who will be the right person to interact. So like, the main thing was lack of understanding about the society, lack of understanding about the communication, what is the proper way of communication dealing with the illiterate farmer, and those farmers who are having some rigidness in their thing. So I think if you are like going through like all the UG student, so that will be helpful for your entrepreneurship as well as this thing also, because you need to understand what is happening over there. So if you learn extension aspects very well, you can deliver those kind of exercises or activities or policies very well in field. Because I have seen handling the backyard poultry projects, handling the mass awareness about the vaccination, that requires different skill set. That I think requires more ownership, more involvement, and that only comes when you listen to your beneficiary rather than saying, "Oh, I am the boss. I know everything. I am the expert," and they are a poor fellow. They are, don't know anything. That's not a case. So that understanding comes from extension aspect, and that's why I have mentioned and I have written one article. In India, we usually lack 3E: extension, then economics, then epidemiology. So we are usually struggling in these three areas, and that's the reason we don't communicate well with our farmers or educate about the you can say pro farmer friendly policies in field. So I think everyone is willing to go in government sector. Majority of you may be interested in government sector, and for that you need to learn these things. So you need to learn how society think, how society can be convinced, and how economics play the role in this thing. So I think thank you, Devesh sir. You added a very good point, and I have shared some of my points. And I will also request you to share your points in WhatsApp groups where you are, and that will be really helpful for everyone. So these are some of the points which I thought to share with you all on Sunday free time. Okay, so if there is any other question, then it is fine. Otherwise, we can close it because it's now 4:33. And this was really nice interaction, and I really like some of the questions whosoever has asked. And my request to you all, the students, especially, make your own LinkedIn profile, especially who are interested in corporate sector, because now those days are gone when we used to have CV and used to send to HR ki sir naukri chahiye and something like that. Now it's your LinkedIn profile, an active, vibrant LinkedIn profile which can ensure good job. So for that, I request each and everyone to prepare professional, you can say, your page profile on LinkedIn, and that profile should not have these kind of strange names, because that's a profession. LinkedIn is a very professional network, and you can be connected with anyone in professional world, not only in India but across the globe.